If it took you 5 years to figure that out, tell me that's not worth it. It's totally worth it because now you get the rest of your life and you ain't even got to worry about nutrition anymore, right? It's done. You got it figured out. Helping us maintain our health and vitality, because vitality is a popular word right now. Getting clear about what you are doing reduces anxiety and increases motivation. I don't know how many times I got to say that. Improving your nutrition is either a long process, a very intensive time, or somewhere in between. That's why you feel so good on vacation, because we're always maintaining this lower level of stress. Get some applause for that. One, I like that paragraph. I'm glad that came out of my head. I don't have it in my house. So when I'm, quote unquote, weak or tired or whatever, it's not there. You need to learn how to nutrition yourself, which is a word I think I made up. How y'all doing out there? Showtime. I tell you, it feels like, I don't know why. Well, I was on vacation. It feels like I haven't done this in like a month, It's wild. It was a great vacation. I really needed that. Got some downtime. Got to get as relaxed as you can get. That's one of the things. That's why you feel so good on vacation, because we're always maintaining this lower level of stress. That's not really a good way to look at it. Kind of is helpful. We're always in this slightly elevated stress response because, hey, life's going on. Our brain's working. Our minds are creating stories, and we've got these tasks we got to do, and we're going and we're working out, and we got to get the food. And so we're always operating at this, we're operating. That's a good way to look at it. And what you do when you go on vacation is you stop that process. Hopefully, you just get into a lower and lower, deeper and deeper relaxed state, and you really get into some recovery. And I wouldn't have thought this, but literally it feels like I haven't done this in a month. That's how different last week was to me, which is pretty cool. All right, here we go. We got episode 37 here. Nutritional progression. I don't know what to call this. What this is I was working on this article, and it's kind of a cool concept that occurred to me. It's about nutrition and about how you can have these different levels of skill levels, and how to I kind of think about what does that look like and how to progress through nutrition, But I couldn't ever get it all to kind of gel. It never really kind of clicked with everything. And I had a lot of stuff going on, and I had spent 3 weeks, waking up 3-4 times a day, 3 or 4 days out of the week. I was working on this and I was refining it, but it just was never clicking. And finally I just had to be like, you know what? I really don't have time to sit and just write a blog right now. There's too much stuff going on. So I just was like, I had to stop. But it occurred to me, I was looking for a topic. I was looking for a podcast to do. And it occurred to me hey, this isn't perfect. It's not complete, but I can pull pieces of this out and go over some of it. And so that's what we're going to do today. I think there's a lot of value in thinking this way when it comes to nutrition, because the thinking that we've been born into is that, hey, you eat, and then you need to go on a diet to lose weight, and then you go back to your eating or whatever. That's kind of the paradigm that we were born into, right? Back in the 90s, people wanted to lose weight, and you did that by going and exercising and, cutting your calories way down until you got to the weight that you wanted to be at, and then you'd go back to whatever you're doing before that. So a diet was this temporary thing, and I think it's helpful. Well, one, it's not a good way to think about food at all, and I think this mindset, these key concepts in this article that's unfinished, it will be helpful to help people kind of readjust or get a better picture of how to think about nutrition in their mind. If you follow the podcast, I talk about nutrition all the time, so you've probably already done that, but hey, nothing wrong with adding on some more depth to your thinking when it comes to nutrition. But before we do that, we're going to sponsor Liquid Death, because that's what we do. We sponsor them. We love Liquid Death. This one's cold. It's condescending right now. It's hot out. I'm going to get into those updates in a second, but here we go. I'm glad this one's cold today. I just ate a big salad and a bunch of rice and chicken. Getting a little cramping over here. Might have been too much food. Get all those vegetables in at one crack. Might not be the ideal way to do it, but that's the way I'm doing it. That's how I built it into my nutrition plan. Goal of this episode, introduce you to the idea of progressing your nutrition, right? That seems simple, and it is. I think the concept will be good once we get into it. Make nutrition improvement more manageable. I think when we see it in a progressive form or a progressive thing, something that we can move ourselves along through, it makes the big picture of trying to change what we eat to something that's more manageable. And that's really what keeps people from doing things is, psychologically, something is overwhelming. It seems like too much. You don't have a lot of clarity on it. We talk a lot about that in this podcast. And when you get clarity, you get a clear picture, it decreases anxiety and increases motivation. That is what it's doing. And also the third goal is to have some fun, because if I'm not having fun, I'm not going to do this anymore, because I got enough stress in my life, and doing the podcast is not going to be a stressor. Oh, also, we're sponsoring Jekyll Hyde. If you don't know, Jekyll Hyde is a local company. They're based out of Livonia. They do fitness gear, clothing. They're geared towards like more, I don't know, what's the word, not Pilates, right? They're not geared towards this kind of general fitness. They're more like, I don't like the word extreme fitness. That's not exactly what it is, but more intense training practices or modalities or whatever you want to say, powerlifting, weightlifting, CrossFit, strongman. That's kind of their niche. They're a great company. The shirts are super high quality. I thought I'd give them a shout out, being that, I'm based out of Livonia. They're based out of Livonia. Support those fellow Livonians. You know what I mean? So Jekyll Hyde, check them out. I love their stuff, man. Love their stuff. Outline of topics, updates. We're going to go over some updates. Before we get started, we got a couple things to cover. I think I might have already said them in the opener. And then we got to the article. Article is in parentheses because, like I said, it's not really finished. So I kind of pulled, there's a bunch that I didn't even print off. I think I'm going to do 2 parts on this one. So I pulled off some of the more conceptual stuff, and then we'll get into more of the details on the second episode is the plan. And then we'll get some final thoughts for you. If I turn these down as I'm going, I won't have to reorganize them at the end. That'd be great. All right. That's the detail from me. All right, here we go. Updates. The golf was rained out. I did not turn it back on. So I was watching whatever tournament that was. It was the big one. It was hard. These guys looked terrible. It was hard to watch after watching like 10 or 11 of these things, and Scheffler's like 21 under or whatever, right? And these guys are just, oh, birdie. Hey, I got another birdie. Awesome. Man, whatever tournament this was, I can't think of what it was. It's a big one. It is very hard. So anyways, they look terrible out there. But I know they're still awesome. Okay. Tigers. I'm not following Tigers at all, but I know they got the best record in baseball, at least when I checked it this morning. Okay. So props to the Tigers. Weather is hot. Weather is really hot right now. We're mid 80s. My temperature in my truck's at 90. And then I'm looking at next week. And next week, I'm going to be reporting on it's going to be super hot next week. Like 97 I saw on a day, which, you could be upset about that if you want. But, when it's wintertime and you're complaining about how cold it is, you can't wait for somebody to get here and then it gets hot, and then you complain how hot it is. Well, you're never happy. So figure that out. And the good thing about the temperature change is it's temperature conditioning, It's training your body to make these adjustments to the environment. And, I think that's why we see little nugget for the side here. That's not part of the cast today, but I think that's why we see these positive health adaptations from saunas and cold plunging. Why? Because we have turned those mechanisms off. We've turned our capacity to adapt to those stressors off. So are we really getting a net positive health benefit, or are we just getting back to where it should be? I don't know. It's obviously a net benefit, but it's only because we have lost those capacities. We haven't lost them. I don't like that way. I don't like looking at it like that. I didn't lose them. What do I usually say? We forgot them? The body forgot it? No, I don't even know. It's not lost. It just isn't being used, and you get reactivated by, what do you know, putting yourself into environments that are semi-stressful, and then the organism adapts. That's you. You are the organism, if you didn't know. subscriber update, email 62, YouTube 123. Man, we cracked the 120. So the last update was 119, but I swear I said 122 on a podcast. Maybe not. Maybe not. 123 is where it's at right now. Spotify moved again. Spotify went to 30, and Apple. Man, I love Apple products. You know what I mean? I'm an Apple guy because everything just works seamlessly. I'm not gonna hate on the Android, or I'm not gonna hate on the Apple. I'm just like, hey, works for me. You do what works for you. I'm an Apple guy. But when it comes to their podcasting platform on the user side, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan at all. One, it's not growing. No. One, it's not growing. But two, and I covered this before, it's like 11 clicks and a drag or something like that. And I got to punch in a code just to see that it's not moving. Anyways. Reminder, please submit your questions to Dennis at DennisFenrich.com. Shout out to Pops. Pour out some water for Pops, man. All right, guys. Before we get started, I almost retitled this before we get into it, but not today. Before we get started, okay, I think I already said these things, but due to time, I had to stop writing, but I wanted to get this unfinished article out there. I already covered that, right? So I've already, I was working on it. I couldn't get it to where I wanted it to be, and I just kind of ran out of time. I could dedicate time to just writing an article. Some other things cropped up I need to start moving on. So this is unfinished, but I wanted to get these concepts out there because I think there's a lot of value in these two main points we're going to talk about today. Yep, going to break it up into two parts. I covered that. And the first half is the general. Oh my God. I hope Nathan is editing these out. I was always leery about the carbonated liquid death. It's been fine, but I think the fact that I have a giant salad and 3 servings of rice, 3/4 cup uncooked servings of rice in my stomach right now, maybe it's a little bit much for the old belly. The first half is the general thought process. Just spit on my microphone. Nasty. And the second is more specific on the different ways to approach. Yeah, and I said all that. All right, fantastic. You remember things when you write them down. I'll go to the grocery store. I don't remember anything. But since I wrote down this morning the couple things I needed to get, what do you know? I didn't even have to get the list out. I just remembered. So when I write them down, I remember. What do you know? Some applause for writing things down. You know what I mean? All right, guys, here we go. We're going to go to the article now, which means I need to get my glasses on, and we need to get excited. So we're going to hit that horn. Because you guys love when I read to you. I know you do. You playing this at night before you go to bed, I'm sure of it. What is your nutrition skill level? Whoa. And this is the thought that occurred to me. It was like, getting good at your nutrition is a skill. It's no different than anything else. Getting good at fitness is a skill. Getting good at your job is a skill, right? And you only get good at it or improve by putting in effort and making mistakes and putting in more effort and making mistakes and making refinement and building in habits and time and effort. And so, again, let's replace that thinking of like, hey, I'm going on a diet, right? Hey, I got to go on this diet because I got to lose 30 pounds. Like, no, you need to learn how to nutrition yourself, which is a word I think I made up, but then I saw it on the internet somewhere. Sorry. Oh, I make myself laugh. Nutrition yourself. I think that's what it is. I think that's a more accurate way to think about it. You're nutritioning your body, right? So, all right, let's read some of this stuff. What do we got here? What is your nutrition skill level? Name of the unfinished article. I've been studying and learning about nutrition for a long time. I've noticed that there are a handful of ways that people think about and approach their nutrition. If you follow me on Facebook, I actually posted this a little bit right here a few weeks back when I was writing this article. So let me say it again. So there's a handful of ways people can think about, right? Because how you see something is how you're going to behave to it, right? And when you change the way you think or see or perceive something, your behavior will coincide. Your behavior will change to line up with that new perception. And so there's basically 5 ways that people kind of think about eating. And let's go into those 5 ways. Eating. The first way is just eating. They're just eating. No thought, just eat what you like or what you like best based on what is currently available. Yeah, so this person, right, they're not thinking about anything, and this isn't a knock. This just is an observation. A good way to figure out where you're at is when we go through this. Maybe it's like, oh yeah, that kind of sounds like me. But, no thought is given to it. It's what's available. They buy what they've always bought when they go to the grocery store, if they go to the grocery store at all. And it's just kind of what's available. Okay, no big deal. We all got to eat. That can be your approach. The second way, dieting. We've talked about this a little bit already. Doing the above. So they're still going to do the above. They're going to eat what's available when it's available. They're not going to have any thought process put into it. And then making a temporary change, typically to lose weight, right? So they're just kind of doing the thing. They're in a slight energy, positive, slight energy balance. No, slightly positive energy balance. There it is for, over time. And over time, it just slowly builds up. Next thing you know, you're 10, 15, 20, 30 pounds, right? Maybe it takes a year or 2 years. And then, bam, I'm going to change this behavior, the way that I think about food, and I'm going to just restrict in order to lose weight. So that's kind of the second way. Number 3, controlled eating. Controlling what you eat, mostly by saying no, typically to maintain weight. So not a ton of thought, but the awareness that I can't just eat anything that I want all the time. Because if I do, I end up putting on weight, right? And so they're going to at least all the time, not temporarily, have some restrictions that have built into the way they feed themselves, the way they nutrition themselves, that keep the weight from going up over time. So that's kind of the third way. The fourth way, and I said there's only 5, so we got 2 more here. Healthy eating, choosing foods that are deemed to be healthy, typically to maintain weight or improve health. Okay, so this person, when they think about food, they think, I'm eating healthy, right? There's thought into that. They've taken the time to learn about what foods are quote unquote healthy and which foods are not quote unquote healthy. And you know how I feel about the whole good food, bad food kind of view. But that's kind of the view, right? This food is good for me. Bam, I can eat that. This food isn't good for me. Bam, I can eat that, right? Dairy's not good for me, so I can have any other kind of milk in quotations, that is out there, right? The nut milks and the whatever kind of other milks. What other kind of milks are there? There's goat milk, goat milk. Goat cheese is really good. I think goat milk is pretty good too. I think I was making my shakes with that for a little bit. You want to talk about a tasty shake? That was it. But again, hey, I'm healthy eating. I eat healthy foods. I restrict or control the bad foods. And that's kind of the overall thought process. And then the last one, and you probably know where I'm going to go with this. If you follow the cast, you know what I think. But somebody who's nutritioning themselves, and I made that up, at least I thought, intentionally eating foods in the ideal amounts based on their nutrients to optimize their body's function and health. Seems like there should be an intermediary in between healthy eating and nutritioning. It seems like a big jump, but there could be, if I thought about it, there might be a 6th one in there, but this gives you the gist of it. Let me say that last one again, because this one is where, and what you'll notice is the complexity of the thinking gets more and more advanced. Somebody's adding in more depth. They're adding in more, you could say rules, you could say guidelines, but more guidance and what they are going to do and what they aren't going to do. They're not only selected foods that they're deeming to be healthy, which are a different view, because the healthy foods are going to be proteins, carbs, and fats, not a whole food like bread or pasta or an apple, but what are those things made out of? So there's an advance there. And then they're also going to control the quantities. And so, as you know, this is how I eat. I think that this is, yes, it's a little bit stressful to learn it, and it's a little bit stressful to get your gears going. But once you've got things in place, then it's no longer stressful. You're just doing what you always do, right? Like you just eat what you've always been eating because that's what you ate yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before. I'm doing the same thing. It's just I had this time period in my life where I got focused on something and I made some changes. And one thing I realized is I've gone through this whole progression that I'm going to talk about with myself over many years. Like I started working on my nutrition when I think the first time I was 19. Like I was like, you know what? I can't be eating fast food every day. And I got in the fast food battle. Maybe get into more details on some of that stuff. But So anyways, nutritioning, it's like as far as you're going to be able to take it. You know the nutrients that your body needs, and you're getting those in the right quantities. Nutrients being proteins, carbs, and fats, which are the macros, and then the micronutrients, which you're not really measuring those. You're going to take a multivitamin, you're going to eat some salads, you're going to make sure you're getting in your micros as well. But the macros coming in specific quantities to make sure that, hey, I'm maintaining the amount of muscle mass that I want to maintain. I'm keeping my body fat at a place it needs to be, and I'm able to make sure I've got all the energy that I need, right? Because if I know that, hey, I'm starting at 6 a.m. and I've got to work, I've got 3-4 hours of work, and then I'm going to go work out, and then I got to go in the evening and run classes. Like, I need to make sure I get in enough energy so I don't get tired throughout the day. So anyways, those are the 5 ways. Nutritioning yourself optimally is a skill that can be learned. Back to the article. It's best to do that through a gradual progression, allowing you to develop the different skills needed to take on the next level. So if you're hearing me talk about nutrition, you're like, oh my God, that sounds like a ton of work, but it would be amazing to have that kind of control. You're right. But the beauty of it is, and what we're going to talk about, is you can progress yourself to there. You don't have to go gangbusters right off the rip and make all this radical change in your life to get to that place. You can say, hey, I'm going to entry point here, X, and then I'm going to move myself forward after that once I get the hang of X, whatever X is. And we are going to talk about the 3 different ways and the 3 ways to progress yourself, okay? All right, back to the article. We all need to eat. This can happen by accident or intentionally. If you want to learn how to take care of your body and get good at nutritioning yourself, at some point you will need to be intentional about it. This inherently will take some effort and skill development. The good news is that this can be learned. But how do you know where to start and know if your current skill level matches that place? In other words, if you want to be able to nutrition yourself and really understand what that is and means, where is the best place for you to start? Okay. I've got a few kind of like, that would be kind of like an opener in an article, right? It's talking about what the article is going to talk about, but it's also getting you interested in it. It's wording it away. And I had a couple of them and I couldn't decide on which one. I think maybe I took it out. Anyways, let me keep reading. Ideally, you will start in a place that matches your skill level. It's no different than taking up exercise for the first time and heading out for a 10-mile run when a 1-mile walk would have been more appropriate. The 10 miles is way above your current pay grade. Nutrition is no different. Starting with macros and meal prepping, if you've never said no to a cookie, is a recipe for failure. Think about trying to make that jump, right? Like, bad idea. Let's not do that. Is a recipe for failure. Let's not do that. Failing can make you feel like you can't do it, but you can. You just need to start in a place that makes sense for your current skill level. In other words, match the difficulty of the nutritional approach to your ability to adhere to it. Doing that is the best way to get your foot in the door when it comes to gaining control of what you eat. That's great. I really like that paragraph. There's something that's implied in there, and people, this has been going on. I've said this before, but people, if you keep failing at something, you will start to believe the can't word's going to come in, right? I can't do it. That is complete nonsense. And I'm frustrated. I get frustrated with our industry, although it's a lot better now. A lot of this came from our industry because, did it come from our industry? When it comes to nutrition and exercise, it does, because there was the 6-week challenges and the 90-day transformations and all the people that got really excited for a week and then fell off, and not only once, but multiple times. And then what starts creeping in? Well, I can't do it. This isn't for me. I'm just not an exerciser. I'll never be able to get my nutrition right. All the stories, lies that start piling up that are just nonsense, right? You just kept trying to bite off more than you could chew at that time, right? There is a lot to learn. I've said this before. If somebody comes to the gym and they're like, hey, I need to start working out, that's one sentence. But that one sentence is going to make all kinds of changes in their personal life, right? Their schedule is going to change. Minimally 3 days a week, they're going to have to get up and do something different. That's a minimum. Not to mention what has to move around for those things to happen. Does their nail appointment have to move? Does their grocery shopping have to move? Does their hair appointment have to move? Does it interfere when you normally get your teeth cleaned? What about your family, significant others, your job, right? There's all these things that are going to be influenced by that one decision. So it seems simple. Yeah, I need to start working out. I'm going to start right now. Bam. It's hard to take into account all the things that need to change. And so you need to bite off the appropriate amount and make sure that whatever it is, you can maintain it at least. Well, I mean, you have to maintain it forever, really, but you don't have to be perfect. Something you can maintain. So, you know what? I can make this lifestyle change, this one, and I can do that. I can do that 80 to 90% of the time for the rest of my life, right? Not some temporary thing, and not something that I'm going to continue to fail at 3 or 4 times and start to get those thoughts in my head about not being able to do it, which is just nonsense. All right, water time. Back to the article. A person's skill level is, for the most part, made up of 2 things: knowledge base and discipline. And I alluded to that before. What do you know about food and nutrition, and how consistently are you able to apply it? Both of these things will improve over time with consistent, not perfect, effort. As your skill level improves, you will be able to move on to more nuanced and effective nutritional approaches, giving you greater control over your body. What do I want to say about that? Yeah, excuse me. Jesus, I have to stop drinking it. Thinking about this and meditating on it, that seems like the 2 things that will kind of comprise someone's skill level. How much do they know and understand food and kind of their body and what their body needs? And how well are they able to apply it? How consistently are they able to apply it? So you have that discipline thing of being able to get yourself to do the thing that you know you need to do, but you also have that knowledge base of understanding nutrition, right? If you're super disciplined and your belief system is that, hey, I should only be eating strawberries. Strawberries are healthy, all their food. I don't know about that, but man, I'm super disciplined. Great. Well, that ain't going to work. So you need to have a basic understanding of nutrition, what your physiology needs, what a living organism needs, specifically a human, because you're human. I'll give you a tip. You're an omnivore. Just going to throw that out there. It's pretty well established. Now, the balance is what you got to figure out. But anyways, you get my point. You got to understand nutrition. You got to have some base there, and then the discipline, right? So that's kind of your skill level. All right, let's continue here. There are essentially 3 different approaches people can take to nutrition. We can use a yes/no approach, as when we remove certain foods like pop or milk, we can control our food environments by not allowing where we are, like our homes, to have foods we don't want to eat, or only foods we do want to eat, the positive side of looking at that. And we can count and adjust the macronutrients of the foods we eat, called counting macros. I've also seen it called flexible dieting. I don't like that name. Let's say what the heck it is. Any other approaches are most likely derivations of these 3. So those are, in my view, the 3 ways you can eat, right? You can kind of take on-off approach, which is entry level, right? You don't have a ton of understanding of nutrition, but we can start to identify, chocolate cake every day or a 2 liter of Coke, not ideal. We're pretty clear on that. And therefore, I'm going to start removing those things. The second level up is I have a better understanding of what good foods and bad foods are. I know I need to get some good, healthy protein sources, and I know I need to get, some vegetables, and I need to get some healthy fats, and I need to get some healthy carbohydrates. I don't know exactly what all those are, but I have a good idea. And when I go shopping, the foods that I keep in my house, those are those kinds of foods. And maybe I got a little bit of, maybe I got some Reese's Pieces over here, or, a little pack of Oreos or something like that. But I'm limiting the capacity for me just to lose it at a night and grab, the goldfish. You know what I mean? Like a bag, that Costco 5-pound bag of goldfish, and you just got it on your lap. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. Let's not do that. So if it's not in your food environment, which is one of the concepts I'll go into in the second podcast on this article, you can't eat it. Like that is one of the main ways I stay consistent with my nutrition. I don't have it in my house. So when I'm, quote unquote, weak or tired or whatever, it's not there. And I'm not going to the store to go buy something, right? It's not going to happen. So I eat what's available, which for me, if it's late and I'm like, man, I'm kind of short on my carbs, I'm going to just eat some popcorn. It's what I'm going to eat because it's easy. It's not bad for you. The thing that'll keep me from popcorn is getting the crap out of my teeth. But whatever. If I need the carbs, I got to do what I got to do. I'll make up some rice, I'll eat some rice, a little butter on that. But it's not in the house. So controlling the food environment. And then the last one we talked about, which is, controlling that and like getting the numbers down and weighing and measuring and all that fun stuff, which is kind of fun, actually. You might not think it's fun, but it's fine. It doesn't have to be fun. If you want the control, then you figure it out. So, and anything outside of that seems to me to be some sort of derivation of one of those three. All right. Variants or whatever however you want to word it. Okay. Back to the article here. Each approach requires a greater understanding of nutrition and personal ability to apply it. This is great because, as previously mentioned, we can then organize them in a way that creates a natural progression. Essentially, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, allowing someone to progress themselves as their nutritional aptitude and abilities improve. Fancy words. This makes the whole process much more interesting and followable. I like that word. The different levels become a pathway to more effective nutritional strategies, leading to more control over your physiology and health as your skills develop. Being able to see a way forward and advance yourself creates a psychologically stimulating process, which is a key point. Overcoming our biology is no small feat. It is done through your psychology, your mind. Having a clear path to follow ties the psychological aspect into the process, making this very difficult thing to do, controlling what you put in your mouth, much more manageable. Get some applause for that. One, I like that paragraph. I'm glad that came out of my head. But two, the key point in there is there's two key points. The progression, it gives hope, it gives clarity, it gives a path forward, right? How can you move forward if you don't know a way? So it gives you a way, and then that in and of itself decreases anxiety and increases your motivation, which is the battle, right? Like controlling what you put in your mouth without a clear picture of why or how is very difficult because all you have is the ability to say no to your biology, and your biology has been here much longer than you have. You're just showing up in another body that, this thing's been evolving for millions of years. Life itself has been evolving for billions of years, and it wants to stay alive. It wants to find energy. It wants to find nutrients. It wants to keep the organism moving. And you gotta fight that at times, especially if you haven't. If you haven't done a good job in those little battles, then it's going to be more difficult at first. But having a clear path to follow makes that process, I have to say, easier. I won't say easy, obviously. I don't think it's ever going to be easy, but the process easier. At least you're on a path. And then you can also know, hey, it's going to be difficult at times. You can start to get these concepts in your mind, and it helps you to stay the course and work your way. And listen, man, if it took you 5 years to start from the yes, no, get into the controlling the environment to where now you're controlling the nutrients and you're able to get your weight and your muscle tissue and your bone, just do whatever you want with your body. If it took you 5 years to figure that out, tell me that's not worth it. It's totally worth it because now you get the rest of your life and you ain't even got to worry about nutrition anymore, right? It's done. You got it figured out. And so I think I recommend people look at it like that, hey, I'm going to get focused on this thing. I'm done with the struggle. I'm not going to say I've been struggling with my nutrition for my whole life, right? I'm going to say, nope, I'm going to get it figured out. This is no different than going to college. It doesn't have to be this highly emotional thing. It's just something I'm going to do. And it's going to take time, and I'm going to study, and I'm going to learn, I'm going to practice, and I'm going to get there. And you can do it. All right, last paragraph in this section here. A second critical point. It also shifts nutrition from an on again, off again thing, which we talked about earlier, or dieting as it's been traditionally viewed, to getting good at nutritioning ourselves. Ideally, we need to learn how to eat appropriately throughout our lives, not have temporary changes we suffer through at different points. This transforms our relationship with food, seeing it as a way to supply the nutrients our bodies need to function optimally, helping us maintain our health and vitality. Because vitality is a popular word right now. Man, what do we got? No. Magic. That's what we got. I wish I could have, I don't know. I was just stuck in this article. I couldn't get it organized in a way that I felt good about. It's actually, I'm reading it. It's not terrible. Sometimes you get stuck in your own head. All right. So I think this is where it kind of gets a little jumbled here. What do I got? Oh, I'm not done with this paper yet. Okay. What is your skill level? This will be the last section. We got like a page here. So let's talk about how to identify your skill level, because I cover some general kind of ways to think about it. Hopefully this helps you kind of figure out where you think you might be and gives you an entry point, okay? All right, what is your skill level? Before we get into the different approaches, let's get a rough idea of our current skill level. Below are descriptions, approximately, of where someone may be with their nutritional abilities. Use this to help you better identify where your skills may currently reside so you can pick a nutrition approach that matches them. Keep in mind, if you have developed abilities in other areas of your life, say your career or finances, you may be able to start at the intermediate or even advanced level with your nutritional approach. Skills do translate. That is something you will have to assess. Just don't underestimate how set your biology is in its current ways or overestimate your skill level to guide it. Better to be humble than to be humbled. Perhaps. Depends on what kind of lesson you're looking to learn, I guess. Okay, beginner. Are we recording? Of course we are. Yeah. All lights are red. Beginner. A beginner is someone who has never tried to change what they eat or has tried many times with little or no success. That's a beginner, right? Hey, I've never even thought about doing anything with my nutrition before. Okay, you're definitely a beginner. We're not going into weighing and measuring and counting macros and getting my nutrients dialed in. You can if you want. It's going to be a lot to learn, though. It's going to be a steep learning curve. Or somebody who's tried many times and just had no success, right? You didn't gain anything from the attempts. If you didn't actually make a change, you didn't actually learn anything. And so that person would want to start at the beginner level, right? And in the next episode, I do go in, what was I about to say? I go into the why the on off, which is what it is the quote unquote the beginner level. And I talk about why that is. I'm not going to get into it here, but it's pretty, I think it makes sense. Okay, so beginner goes to advanced. Oh, whoa, I got 4 levels on here. See, there's an incongruency. So we got 4 levels. Well, we're going to have an extra on there. Fantastic. Intermediate. This is someone who has had some success with eating. Think on again, off again. They have controlled what they eat for months or even years at a time, but they have never been able to create the changes they were looking for or make them stick if they did. They have shown the ability to discipline themselves and hold the course, but they have not made it an effective and permanent change to their lifestyle that has created a lasting change in their body. Okay, so intermediate would be they've had some success. They were able to discipline whatever approach they were taking. They were able to apply it, and they did get some results, but the results didn't stick. Okay, and so they've shown the ability to start moving the needle in the right direction, but then to maintain it, we haven't learned how to do that yet. All right, so that would be kind of intermediate. Advanced. This is someone who has shown discipline and created lasting change in their body by controlling what they eat, with a couple of caveats. They never truly reach their final goal, that last, in quotes, little bit, or they have not made any modifications to the original nutritional approach, i.e., they're doing the same things they did to get the initial result, with no adjustments or advancements since then. So this is somebody who's still advanced, right? Like, They were in a place they didn't want to be. They applied discipline and knowledge to what they were eating. They got a result, and hey, maybe that result was good enough and they were good to go. They still have those same behaviors. They still are approaching nutrition in the same way. They haven't advanced on to the last level, which maybe you don't have to. You know, it's on you. You definitely don't have to. Or maybe they never really got to that last little bit. You hear that a lot. Like somebody wanted to lose 70 pounds and I got 50 off, or I got, 60 off, but I never got that last 10 pounds, because the last 10 pounds were going to take a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more discipline maybe to make those changes. So they're still not quite to the last level, which is master. Okay. I've been telling you 3. That's why the article's not finished. So here we go. Let's see what a master is. We got a button for that? What do we put for master? I have no idea. Record scratch? Nope. Applause? Do we applause the master? Maybe we do. Master. This is someone who has reached their initial goal for years now and can modulate their nutrition to match their current objectives. Modulate that nutrition. When they want to gain muscle, performance, etc., or lose body fat and lean out, it's just a matter of deciding. They do not struggle to change what they eat to make these things happen. They are in control of their nutrition and use this skill to create the desired outcome in their physiology. And that would definitely be a master, right? Their body fat's where they want it to be, their muscle tissue's where they want it to be. And, if they're like, I want to put on some weight, they just make an adjustment in their diet and bam, they're putting on weight. Hey, I want to lose a little bit of weight. I want to lean out a little bit more summertime. I want to make an adjustment. They make an adjustment in the diet and they lose the body fat. Anybody can get to that point, I promise. Is it something you got to learn? Absolutely. Is there skill involved? Absolutely. Is it going to take some discipline and some ups and some downs? Absolutely. But I just think that being healthy and taking care of your body is so important. This should just be taught. Like, there's no reason why everybody shouldn't have the capacity to do this. And if you're, get to where you're good, where you're at, right? At least know how to hey, I'm fine where I'm at. Like, I don't need to have, all the muscle and be super low body fat, but I want to maintain a healthy body weight and I want to make sure my energy levels are good. You can totally do that. And everybody should have that capacity. And I guess that's why I do the podcast. So I hope it helps. All right. So that was the gist of the article. Let's wrap this up and get into some final thoughts. It's a bit of a long one. You can see that. A bit of a long one. Okay. Do I need my glasses with this? Yeah, let's do it. Improving your nutrition is either all right, let's start again. Let me get a drink. Throat's getting a little dry. The suspense, right? All right. Improving your nutrition is either a long process, a very intensive time, or somewhere in between. Oh, okay. I just wrote this morning. Improving your nutrition is either going to be a long process, right? Or a very short, intensive time, not even short, a shorter, intensive time, or somewhere in between. Decide for yourself where to start based on how much stress you are currently incurring and how much time and attention you currently have. If you are high on stress and low on time and attention, pick something simple and easy that is still a move in the right direction. If you have low stress and high time and attention, you can be more aggressive. Main point, don't just act. Main point, don't just act. Think about what makes sense, put a simple but intelligent plan together, then pick the place to start and do it. Ultimately, this is how you make consistent improvement in nutritioning yourself. So what is the point there? 1, assess where you're at, right? You just listen to this podcast, you're like, I'm going to do it. It's going to be amazing. But you're working 12, 14 hours a day. You got a couple kids, a lot of stress in the home life, stress at work. Maybe you're in school. Like, you just got a lot going on. And trying to add on all of the thinking and attention it's going to take when you don't really have any isn't a good move. It's just going to lead to more frustration. We've talked about this before. There's a true and real emotion called overwhelm. It's when you're overwhelmed, okay? And that is not a fun place to be. And so yes, you want to improve your nutrition, great, but do a real assessment of where you are, and I think those are the three things you want to kind of think about. Where are my current stress levels and how much time and attention do I have to give to this right now? And if you got a ton, great, be more aggressive. If you don't have a ton, pick one thing or I like what I said. I like what it says here. I like what I said, whatever. I like what it says. My main point, don't just act. Don't just get super excited and then go, I'm going to do it all, right? It's not a good idea. Think about your situation. Think intelligently about it. Do an assessment, put an intelligent plan together, and then go take action. So that intelligent plan might be, you know what? I'm cutting pop out. I'm just done with it. It's not in my life anymore. And that is not going to take a ton of time and attention. It's going to take some discipline, but all you got to do is not have it in the house and not be around where it's at. We're going to talk about food environments in the next podcast. But yeah, all right. I like that. Getting clear about what you are doing reduces anxiety and increases motivation. I don't know how many times I got to say that. If you've got a lot of anxiety and you're not motivated, you don't have a lot of clarity. You need to start slowing down and thinking about your life and getting more organized and getting more clarity about what you're doing and where you're trying to go. And you'll feel a million times better. All right, let's wrap this up, guys. Live long and prosper because, hey, you know what? What an amazing thing to say to people. Next episode will probably be part 2 on this. And then we're going to be bringing some more guests on. The last one with Ryan Mars, I was done and I realized, God, I really enjoy talking to people. And so it's refreshing to have somebody on and just have a conversation and let things flow naturally. I love doing these too when they go really well. Sometimes they're a ton of work, but it's much easier just to meet somebody, have a rough outline, and kind of hang out. So I want to start getting more guests on and just, digging into what are people doing with their health and their fitness and what kind of experiences have they had and stuff like that. So I'm excited to get more guests on. Next week will be part 2 of this. And then help us grow. Do you know someone this could help? Like literally, do you know somebody that could use this information that's kind of struggling with nutrition that would, could use a little bit more clarity and a better way to think about it? Send them this podcast, right? Connect them to it. Help them out. Like and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, or all 3 if you're feeling feisty. And as always, I'm just going to keep saying this. I think one day there'll be so many questions. I will not have, somebody else will have to go through my email and organize them so I can answer them. And I'll do a Ask Me Anything podcast. It'll be fantastic. But as always, submit your questions to dennis@dennisfenrich.com. Care about you guys a lot and keep hammering. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep working on it. You're getting better. I know you are. And we'll talk to you next week. All right, bye.